This is Bree from Scratch. Welcome to my home. Today we are starting our spring garden from scratch. It is the first time having a garden on this piece of property, so there is so much work to do, and I'm gonna show you the very first steps to starting a garden. Okay, so I'm coming out here to measure out the garden, and then at the very least I'm gonna stake out where it's gonna go. I may, if I have time, stake out the beds too, because I have a friend coming soon. Oopsie. I have a friend coming soon to help me, or they're gonna till it for me. So I also kind of need a better idea of how much compost I need to buy, because the soil is not very good. It was, this used to all be wood, so it was clear cut and then it was graded, and so all the topsoil is gone. And we're just gonna have to bring this soil back to life, which will take years, but I will start with adding compost to it. Okay, you ready to measure it with me? Let me show you what I got. I just got some bamboo garden stakes. You wanna pound that in there? I got a rubber mallet, some jute string.
Is that a measure?
Yeah, it measures. So then I got this rolling measuring thing. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I just wanna measure, because then that's gonna give me an idea of how long and wide my beds can be. And then how many beds I'll put in, and things like that. Once I measure with this tool, I don't know what it's called, I'm gonna call it a rolling yardstick. I don't know what else to call it. A measuring wheel, there we go. Once I do that, I'm gonna stake out the corners and add string, and hopefully then I'll make the beds as well. I mean, I'll stake out the beds too, but we'll just start there. A couple of things that I have considered while trying to figure out how I'm gonna do this is, are there any utilities in this area? Like under the ground? I'm pretty sure there's not. I do have a call in to 811 to find out, but I really feel like all the utilities are over on the other side of the house, or just right here. You can see the, where is it? Right here, that's my propane tank. But I know that the propane line runs to the house, not out here to the road. But I do want to keep, where is it at? I do want to keep a good distance away from the propane tank, just because I am not sure if the metal that the tank's made out of poisons the ground at all. I just don't know. I just want to stay far away from it for digging and for toxic reasons, and yeah, so we're gonna stay significantly far away. I do think I'll put a smaller garden on this side, kind of closer to the propane, but the main garden, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna go ahead to keep it simple and pretty is just line it up with the edge of the house here and just bring it straight down here close to this line of trees and bushes. How did you get in there? Did you just climb right in there? This is a little garden bed that the other owners left here, and I might use it as like a cold frame, is what I was thinking in the fall. But I was also just thinking it could be a place for the babies to play, or a younger kid could have their garden in there, something like that. So I think I'm just gonna have the garden follow the natural line of the property, and then come back up and end at the other corner of the house, which doesn't make it a super long garden, but it does make it pretty wide. And then I will add in, I think I will add in smaller gardens other places, but I think just to make sure we're not hitting the septic, we're not hitting the propane tank, that's the wisest thing to do. I wonder how they fill the propane tank. Do they drive through the yard? But they couldn't do that because they would have to drive over the septic tank, and I don't think you're supposed to do that. Do they come up? This makes no sense. Because I'm wondering, if they drive through the yard, would I need to leave enough space here for then a big truck to drive through? Or is there a hose long enough to come from the street? But that's a really long ways. Anyways, there's a lot of questions I have that I don't have the answers to. Anyways, the reason I'm asking those questions is because I'm trying to decide how far to make the garden from this edge of this crawl space basement entrance, how far out to make it. And I've been debating that for a while, but now that I'm out here, I'm still not sure. I'm just gonna walk up here to this corner where this bush is. And I'm gonna see how far out 10 feet is. That's 10 feet. I know on video it's really hard to tell how far that is. It's not that much space. It's definitely enough just for my kids to run through here and to like bring a lawnmower through. And that's where I'd like for it to be. But is it big enough for the truck? But how can the truck come through the yard? Because that's where the septic is. Does it come through the backyard? I don't know. Questions, questions. Will you bring me one of those stakes right there? Those wooden posts and the rubber mallet?
What's a rubber mallet?
The thing in your hand. Will you bring it to me? Thanks. And then can you do a big job for me?
Yeah.
Come here, I'll show you. Oh, good try. Just walk over to me. I'll show you what to do. Another good try. See where my feet are? Can you put a stake right where my feet are, please? Okay. I just lost my helper. He's not feeling well, so he's going inside. So I'm gonna have to do this myself. Alright, so that's 10 feet out from that corner, which is right on the outside of this bush. I wanted it to stick out really high because I don't want the kids to get hurt. I want it to be really obvious because they run all over the place in this yard. You okay? That's my first corner. I'm sure it's not perfect. That was never like my gifting, were these perfect tight corners, but it'll do. All right, now I'm gonna measure from this corner all the way down. And this is what it looks like to start a garden from absolute scratch. This is kind of the first step. Well, the first step is figuring out where it's gonna go. And to do that, you know, you gotta know where your utilities are. If you're on a suburban lot, you need to know where the sun is. If you're putting a garden where there's shade, you're not gonna be able to grow much of anything. Since I know that there's most likely no utilities here and this is south facing, I know that this is the perfect spot for the garden. And so then the next step is, how big do I want it to be? Well, I want it as big as I can make it without interfering in a couple of things, which is my kids being able to run around the house, me being able to mow, having access from other points, and also in this season I don't want it to be too big. So, but since I have a friend with a BCS tiller coming, I'm gonna go ahead and make it as big as I hope it can be. Even if I don't use the whole thing, I will keep that covered, the parts covered I don't use this season, but those beds will still be made. Okay, so now I'm gonna measure from here down to where I want it to be and just see how far that is. And the reason for measuring, once again, is so that I can decide how wide and how long my beds are gonna be. Because I will, even though I won't have raised beds, hopefully the plan is to only till this year. Till, prep the beds, get the soil better, and then just keep adding every year, but not have to till every year, because I'll add organic matter to the soil and I'll cover the soil too to keep it from growing weeds back and kill any weed seed that was in there. So that's the plan. That's how our other garden was after a couple years, and it was amazing. And I have no idea if I'm walking in a straight line. There's probably a better way to do this, but here I am. Hey baby. Okay, 56 feet. 56 feet, that's pretty good. I can work with that, and I might even extend it to an even 60, but I'll think about that. All right, I'm gonna leave my wheel here and go get myself another stake to throw in there. Oh, look at you. Are you destroying your clothes? Oopsie, you're okay. Some of the kids are with their grandparents. Some of them are inside sleeping, or like Wilder's not feeling well, and Grace is working on school while she listens for Royal to wake up. So it's just me and Truly out here working on this project today. Time of your life, huh? Another thing that would be good to consider when planning out your garden would be your water source. How far away is that? Does a hose reach? Are you gonna have to haul water? Obviously I'm on a suburban lot, so I'm gonna have hoses and they will reach. But if that's not your situation, I would take that heavily into consideration because hauling water for a garden is very hard work. Now I'm gonna follow the edge of the house here. I know for a fact the septic is in the front, but I don't know how far over the front yard it comes. So I'm just gonna stop here and come straight down. I think that'll be plenty big of a buffer. The neighbor across the street knows a lot about where things are with this house because they watched it be built. And they're like part of the HOA, and they've lived here like 25 years. I hear you. So he told me where some stuff was. All right. I think I will go to 56 here too. I think it goes a little bit past the corner, but not far. And yeah, I think this will make a nice square garden, which will be easy to make beds on. One thing to remember as I do this final side is that the land curves. So this side is actually gonna be shorter. And the other thing is that I'm considering using this border here to put my fruit trees and fruit bushes. So I'm not sure. I want to make sure I leave a big enough border on the outside of this garden that's along the road. That one, I can put a non-permanent fence around it, but two, that I can put my berry bushes and fruit trees. My stake is kind of straight ahead, and that leaves a significant space here and just a little bit of space, but only on this corner is it a narrow space. So I think we can work with that. The only place it's tight with the bushes is this corner. Everywhere else it's a ton of space. So I'm interested to see how long this side is compared to how long that side is. Lulu, come off on the other side. Lulu. 44 feet 7 inches. It's obviously not square. If it was square, it'd be so much easier to plan out the garden beds. But I'm gonna have to sit down and do this on paper. I can't just do this in my head, but I do have graph paper inside. So let's take this messy little girl inside and sit down with our graph paper, and then we'll come out here if I still have time and we'll lay the beds out. Hey, you wanna go in? This has been a really great baby holding place. Yeah, you can't get out, can you? What I think I'm gonna do though is plant a bunch of, like, all of my vining squashes and stuff along this fence line and let them grow out this way. But because I think because of this being south facing, these couple of trees, it's mostly pine trees, and there's like a couple of leafed out trees. I don't think this is that shady, so I think it'd be the perfect place to put my butternut squash and my pumpkins and stuff. No, don't put it down your shirt. Are you putting dirt down your shirt, you wild child? Well, there goes my plan of just taking her clothes off on the porch. It won't matter because she'll still be filthy, won't ya? Come on. Do we go the front door or the back door? Go inside. That all came out of her clothes. Math, geometry, not my specialty, so just work with me here. Right now I'm trying to figure out the layout. I got my graph paper. Each square represents 2 feet. So now I'm just trying to figure it out. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. There, I already figured this one out. Okay. I'm okay having some shorter beds and some longer beds. Now, since I know that 1 square equals 2 feet, I can draw out my beds. I feel like my old beds, they were 3 feet wide by 30 feet long. But they can't be that long in this garden because you have to have space to walk around them, They could be that wide or wider. I like 3 feet wide because I can reach to the middle from both sides. No matter what side of the row I'm on, I can reach to the middle to plant or to weed or to harvest. Another thing to consider is the paths between rows. How wide do you want those? In my last garden, they were pretty wide. Like, we could have definitely made our paths a lot more narrow and grown more food, but I found that I really enjoyed having wide paths for many reasons. One main reason being children. I just felt like they were able to be a part of the garden more without having to worry as much about them stepping on things, because they had enough space to toddle, you know, down the paths and drip and fall and run and be wild. And so I think that's a really good consideration, because I will have small children for quite some time. So they're gonna be at least 2 feet wide. I would like to do 3 feet, but that might be too much. So I'm gonna start with 2 feet and see where that leads me. I have 3 foot beds, 2 foot paths, 3 foot beds, 2 foot paths, which actually leaves me, now I'm not smart enough to figure all this out on paper. I'm gonna have to walk out there and do it with my measure and my string, and even then I probably won't get it exactly right. But this leaves me with approximately 22 beds. And most of those beds would be 26 feet long, so that's a very significant garden. Trying to think if I want a garden that big, but once again, I think going out and prepping it, and even if I just cover it or do cover crop or don't necessarily use it yet, I still think it'd be good to start prepping that big of a garden, because the soil needs a ton of work anyway. Our garden will still have a nice sized garden, Grace. It's at a slight hill, and so I want the beds horizontal on the hill to prevent erosion. If they're vertical on the hill, then the soil in the paths and in the beds will just get like washed away. Me and Truly, she's got her dirty garden clothes back on. Can't be naked in the neighborhood, I guess. You know, one thing I want to talk about before I get started is how a lot of times whenever you move on to a new property, you don't know where the sun hits. That is something you learn over 4 seasons of you living on a space, being outside, actually intentionally noticing where the sun hits, where the sun doesn't hit, you know, where the trees are, where the bushes are, where growth of trees is going to happen and going to shade, you know, a larger area. Thankfully though, in this yard, I am south facing. Lulu. I am south facing. So although I have trees right here on the very edge of part of my garden, I mean, my garden comes in front of that bed. And so that may bring a little shade with the sun in the morning. It's not going to be enough shade to keep the garden, or at least that edge of the garden, from getting full sun. And I'm really grateful, because this is honestly the only yard in this whole neighborhood that has a big south-facing yard. Most of the other houses are north-facing, or they just have so many trees that there's no sun. There are gardens in this neighborhood, but they're a lot smaller, and you can just see they're like tucked in where there's sunshine. So I'm grateful for this. One thing I don't do is start my own plants. You know, I buy starts or I direct sow. And that works for me because I have resources where I can get plants for, very good plants, for an affordable price, just because I'm buying them wholesale. So, you know, buying starts is not always financially feasible, but that's why people start their own plants, especially whenever you need as many as I do to fill in a garden this size. But once again, I'll be doing a lot of direct sowing as well. Okay, can y'all see me? All right, so here is my stake for my first corner. So I'm just gonna measure out 3 feet. And honestly, I'm just gonna see, do I like the width of that garden bed? And I do. I think that's great. I mean, I could do 4 feet. Might make it easier because I'd be less beds to have to get ready. Oh, there's 4 feet. Maybe I'll do 4 foot beds. I think that's gonna be too hard, actually, to weed, because it would kill my back to have to reach that far. So, and yeah, I think we'll do 3 feet. I like that. Okay, we're gonna get another stake out right here. Just gonna pop it into the 3-foot space. Once again, this is not physics, so we don't have to be perfect, thankfully. Hey! Are you saying hi to the people? You're so cute. You're so cute. Can I have my phone? That's one thing I don't want you to have. You gonna try to pull it out? Let's see if you can do it. And I don't know if we need to put it deeper in. Can you pull it out? Can you get it? Or is it good? Now I'm gonna measure out 2 feet. I feel like that's plenty wide. I feel like ours were that wide before. And what if I did a 3-foot path? So now I'm working on the paths and I'm just taking a look at them. I feel like 3 feet's too far. 2 feet is good. Can you hand me one of those stakes? I'm gonna put a leaf until I get a stake. Okay, so that's our 2 foot. All right. I think one thing I'm actually gonna do first is tie a string from one post to the next, just to keep things somewhat straight. Can you come with me? Oh, okay, have fun. I like it when you get in there because you can't get out. It's helpful that there's only one baby out here right now. Hey, please don't cut my string. You can cut the grass. This end is laid out. Unfortunately, I'm out of stakes. I have 3 left, so I am going to stake out to the next path, like the middle path that's gonna run down the whole garden. I'm gonna stake out to that path. What we need to do now is measure out, look at my garden plan, and then measure out how many feet to the middle path. Oh, 26 feet. So many things and people to carry, and only 2 arms. Did those crows scare you a little bit? Let's go up here. From this corner that's closest to the house, we're gonna go out 26 feet. With bare feet? I'm gonna help you find 4 feet on the measuring plate. Hold on, Lulu. Oh, are you helping me? Thank you, Lulu. Go slow at first so you don't hurt me. Well, we got another couple of kids joining us. Did you wake up, little man? So the next thing is I'm gonna measure this far corner. See, there's the house. This far corner. I'm gonna measure out 26 feet. Hey, buddy. I'm gonna finish this and I'll come hold you. Royal. That was cute. Okay, friends, that's all the garden I can do today. My little kids need me. It's so interesting how when my big kids aren't here, I can't get as much done because they're such amazing helpers. Like right now, what they would be doing is just playing out here, and they would be herding the babies and making sure the babies don't ever go on the road. But they're not here, so I have to do that while doing the garden work, and it means I have to stop a lot. Okay, I'm coming. Anyway, I'm proud. We got a lot done. We got the whole garden marked out. We just didn't get all of the rows and paths marked out. Hopefully I'll have this tilled by the end of this month. I've got compost coming soon. I hope you enjoyed this video. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.